I have notes on putting yourself out there and the art of B-roll. So SZA recently tweeted something that so many people I know struggle with, especially in this era of like personal brand is your highest form of leverage, which is something I always say. So let's get into it. She says, I used to think sharing snippets and personal info and music tea would build connection, but it actually just made people entitled, ungrateful, and disrespectful. It's time to restore that boundary. Be blessed. And the reason I wanted to talk about it in the context of I have notes and just all my thoughts around it is it's something that comes up for me a lot in my work. People will say to me, I want to grow my business or I want to become more known in my industry. Should I just post BTS and tell people about my life and tell people about my vulnerabilities and my ups and downs and my struggles? And should I just lay everything bare? And I'm like, can we just take 5 minutes? Can we just take a beat to think about whether that is the right thing for you personally? Are you that kind of person who will be open to, resilient to, and receptive to the different critiques and scrutiny that will come if you put your personal life out there? And second, who said that putting that personal life out there, putting those vulnerabilities or those private things would help you connect to your business goals or your personal profile goals or whatever goals over here? Sometimes we think we need to do a whole story time about our dating life in order for people to care about what we're doing. And I just think that's so untrue. But don't trust me, SZA has said it herself, right? She's literally said it made people entitled, ungrateful, and disrespectful. And I think it's a really, really important thing for us to consider. I know sometimes you may ask people in your community or people in your audience, what do you want to see from me? And people will just say, I want to see more of your life. I want to see more. That doesn't mean you have to give it to them, or that doesn't mean you have to give it to people in that way, right? Number one, scarcity and exclusivity gets people going like crazy. So putting everything out there at once isn't always the best thing, even though it may result in a like overnight viral moment, or it might result in the most views you've had over time. The second thing you have to ask yourself also is like, that type of virality, is that what I want? So many times we get distracted by numbers. We think 1 million views is great. But my question is, what is the quality of those views, right? So imagine you had like 1 million people watch a video about something that you laid your life bare and you're a tennis teacher, right? You have a tennis school which you're trying to promote, you laid your life bare and you had like 1 million people watch a video or 10,000 people follow you on social media. But now, the majority, not all, but the majority of those people, they're here for the tea, they're here for the story time, they're here for the gist. And now you're talking about your tennis club and you're getting 0 engagement and you're back to 10 likes, even though you've now gained an extra 10,000 followers. There's a disconnect there that serves the purpose of, I want to have big reach, I want to get big numbers, but doesn't serve the real goal, which is I actually want this to have an impact on either how I'm perceived. I want to be perceived as a, let's say you're working and you're trying to be a luxury influencer, or I want to be perceived as an expert in my field, or I want to sell 25 tennis lessons. Those two goals are now disconnected. And it doesn't mean that, people who care about your personal life won't care about your business. They will as well, and there are elements, but it's not as black and white. And you really have to think a little bit more nuanced when it comes to what you tease in your world that connects to something you're thinking about downstream and what you're thinking about in the future. It's not just by any means necessary. It's not by any story time necessary. It's not by, let me just see what story I can rustle up, because also then you get caught in the cycle of having to feed the like gossip beast or feed the BTS beast or feed whatever the word is that you're thinking of. And the question is, again, A, do you want to sustain that? B, do you have the wherewithal to sustain it? Because it comes with a lot. So what can you do instead? Now, don't get me wrong. I actually really, really adore a BTS moment. And I think there are some ways that people do this really well. And I wanted to talk about the art of the B-roll. Now, you might be thinking, what's B-roll? In production, we have B-roll. So basically, you have your main camera, which is what I'm looking at you at right now, like in the eye. But then we also have this other camera over here, which is kind of the secondary thing that captures like the other, let's say, less polished nuances. You can see the cameras moving up and down versus like this camera's kind of still. So in this context, like B-roll is always like those extra things that give life and color to what you're doing in like the main thing, right? So other people may call it like the Finsta effect as well. So Kendrick Lamar has a Finsta, or a B-roll account as I like to call them, and his last 2 posts are a perfect example of this, of the connection point. So in the penultimate post, which was actually like over 40 weeks ago or something, he literally says, he just talks about where he's been at in life. It's still quite like abstract. It's not like I've gone through XYZ itemized, because we don't know that much about Kendrick Lamar's personal life in such intimate detail. But he talks about the fact that he's, you know, just been experiencing a lot and he just wants to go back to his GNX, which is the first image in the carousel, right? That was a year ago-ish. And then the next post is the video for GNX, a song that came out on his recent album. And it's actually more the well-produced video. It's like actually the music video. But you can see that he started a conversation with the people. I think there's like over 1 million people on his B-roll account. He started this conversation, started to lay the seeds and sow the foundations of like this GNX thing in an intimate space. People follow that account because they get to see like selfies from Kendrick, stuff he's up to. Not loads of things. Like I said, he's not a lifestyle vlogger, but there are things that maybe you wouldn't see elsewhere. And he was able to start to sow those seeds for when GNX actually came out. Very similarly, Pharrell also has like a B-roll account called Skateboard. And on his B-roll account, we saw a couple of posts referencing his relationship with Nigo as his creative collaborator over the years. Talking about the fact that this is someone that he's had a relationship with over the years and they've done some amazing work together. He didn't use all these words, he kind of used images. And people started saying, is Nigo going to be part of the new collection for Louis Vuitton menswear, right? Which was the case. In February, Paris Fashion Week Men's was the unveiling of his creative collaboration with Nigo for Louis Vuitton, right? And I actually really love the Skateboard account because you can kind of see all the inner workings of some of his like creative development. And I think that is a great way to think about how you share your life. I think sometimes we jump too much into maybe replicating someone in a different field, which, you know, I love. You would know that I love looking at people in like unrelated fields, but it doesn't mean that we should jump. You should look and think about, how can I translate, how can I transmute, how can I transform what I love about this and add it to what I do. And that's a very important point what I've said, which is what you love about it. You shouldn't be thinking, I should just show more of my life because that's what everyone's doing and that's how to go viral. Chasing virality is only going to leave you tired. It's only going to leave you probably questioning whether it was worth it in the first place, and it may not even contribute to your business goals. So think about the B-roll of your life, the B-roll accounts you can create. They don't have to be Instagram accounts. And yeah, just take a beat before you feel like putting all your cards on the table, because the people don't need to know that necessarily.